you tell them.
I'm Stella and welcome to my channel 30 Books, where I talk about Australian books and Australian writers to inspire you to run out and buy or borrow, download an Australian book. Now, speaking of Australian writers, I'm speaking to Jacquie Byron, who is the author of Happy Hour. Hey, Jack.
Hello, Stella.
Fancy meeting you at your own home.
In my hallway, holding my book.
Holding your book. So your book came out in August. Hold it up for the people.
31st of August, yes, in lockdown.
How would you describe your book? Is it commercial fiction?
Definitely, hopefully, popular women's fiction. Not women's, commercial fiction, yes.
Yeah, not just for popular women.
Not just for popular women. Unpopular women are welcome to read it too. It's a bit of a dramedy. There's quite a bit of black humour. Shall I go into the plot?
Yes. Tell us about your character, Franny.
There you go. So yes, it's the main protagonist is we meet Franny Calderwood. She's a 65-year-old woman who lost her husband 3 years ago by the time we meet her, and he was killed in a dramatic accident. And her way of dealing with that has been to remove herself from the world. And so she's pretty much become quite a decadent recluse. I did start writing it before lockdowns were a thing. And she's turned her back on family and friends. She's just got her 2 dogs, whiskey and soda, and she has a good time at home. And then a young family moves in next door, a mother and 2 kids. They've got quite a few issues that sort of start bleeding into her household. They all sort of start to become quite friendly. Hilarity ensues, but then there is a lot of tragedy and trauma behind Franny's sort of very worldly, caustic facade, and that comes to the fore, and the family pull away from her. And then there is a tragedy or a drama that Franny gets involved in, and basically there comes a point where it's like a reckoning, and she has to discover whether she's going to get back into life or not. It's better than I've made it sound.
I love this book, and I particularly liked, so tell us about the inspiration for Franny, because she is that you? Is Franny you?
I'm too young. Oh my God.
And what made you decide on her age?
Look, it all came together quite kind of organically, because the inspiring idea was very different. Nothing to do with any of this. It was about, I just had a thought about a woman who just wants to get away from her life. Basically, one of those moments where everyone wants too much from you, needs you, and you need to step away. And really, the thought was a young woman that gets in her car and just drives out of her life. But that's so hard to do in this day and age with technology, and now we've got vaccine passports, you name it, whatever. We just, I'm not that good a writer. So I sort of thought, how can you, I guess hide at home? And all of a sudden, really, this Franny, she kind of strutted in. And my working title was Drunken Nana for a while, which, as my joke is, that I still want to see that as a Chinese action sort of film, and make good money from it. But yeah, she was just this sort of, wisecracking, hard drinking, glamorous sort of.
That's the thing. She is glamorous, because it's like this 65-year-old widow where you kind of.
There's no cardigans.
Yeah, when we were in our 20s or maybe even 30s, if you've thought about a 65-year-old widow, you have a very specific idea, but that is not Franny at all. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's anything wrong with that.
And her grief, because it humanises someone in their 60s. Her grief is real. It's not like her life is now kind of over. And I love that she's a party woman too.
Yeah,
I did like
but
that.
she keeps that up even on her own.
Yes.
Yeah, I did a lot of research about that.
And the end, I cried. There's one part in the novel where my eyes stung. So if you want to laugh, if you want to go, oh, what's happening next? And if you want to cry, Happy Hour is.
I want your eyes to do more than sting. I want you to bawl.
Bawl and buy.
Bawl and buy.
Now, and it's not uncommon for your debut book for most people to go, I spent 5 to 7 years on this book. You're the exception, but there's another story behind that.
Overnight sensation. No.
You
Well,
sold your book when it wasn't finished.
I did sell my book when it wasn't finished. This is not to be recommended to people. So I did have a happy lockdown story last year, in that the Australian Society of Authors does something called speed pitching, and you get literally 3 minutes. And I've tried it in real life and bombed dramatically. But in lockdown last year, it was on your Zoom in my little spare room office. And, excuse me, that worked better for me. But anyway, you've got 3 minutes. I pitched the idea. I was sort of probably at about 60,000 words then.
Oh, okay. Oh, right.
Yeah.
So you didn't have like 3 paragraphs.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
2/3 of the way in.
And you had spent
And everyone
18
was
months?
gold.
Every...
I started it in 2018. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So from that process, I got the interest of a publisher. On the strength of that, I went out to 3 agents and said, this is happening. And the day that I was signing with my agent was the day that that original publisher came back and said, yes, we'd like to see the whole manuscript. We didn't end up going with them in the end. But that Australian Society of Authors event that any bugger can try was the beginning, the inciting incident.
But I do know other things about you, and I'm prepared to spill on camera. But the other thing is that you spent 20 years honing your craft, did you not? You're also a journalist.
I am, yeah, by trade a journalist.
And I also know that there were some masters.
From when I was in my 30s.
You spent 20 years honing
Yes.
your craft. You're a journalist by trade.
Yeah.
You did lots of other writing classes. We know each other from a master class. But you also did, or you watched Shonda Rhimes, who actually is a scriptwriter. And you learnt about pitching. And I have to say, there are a lot of novelists out there who often go to script writing classes because of plot. But tell us about the Shonda Rhimes.
Shonda Rhimes, yeah. So she's her most recent tiny success is Bridgerton, and she was Grey's Anatomy and everything. So she's kind of, but she just I just watched this session with her where she talked about how a lot of writers are very bad at pitching. I showed you just earlier when I was trying to describe the plot. I am actually normally shy at it. But she just had some tips. First, it was about rehearsal and rehearsing with lots of noise on and distractions so that you can go... So she used to pitch to mates in bars and stuff where everyone was rudely talking over or there was noise in the background, and also go really, really fast. So that when she finally got to that situation that was quite tense and intimidating, she could ease into it. And the other great tip she had was things like, don't go into the detail because... so don't say, she was tall with long black hair and big eyes. That doesn't really... just say she's a very beautiful woman, and you, the person that's listening to the pitch, will create that because you might hate tall, dark-haired women. One might have broken your heart in recent times, things like that. And also you say things like, and then something really romantic happens. Once again, I will imagine. Don't go into the detail about that. That will all come out later when they read the script or the book. It was just some really interesting...
So as you know, on this channel, I predominantly talk about Australian books. So tell us about our most recent Australian read.
Well, are we going Antipodean or purely
We can
Australian?
go across the ditch.
We can go, because yes, Nancy Business is probably the most recent, definitely the most recent New Zealand, which I loved, and I'm loving that series, and I'm looking forward to Mr. McDonald's third iteration.
I feel like, so I've just recently talked to Kate Hazel Hall, and even when I talked to Lynn Howard, Rob McDonald, honestly, he gets more mentions in my channel than any on
really nice.
He's really nice.
As well
and
as...
his books are really
It's
fantastic.
just a really original idea. It's really unusual.
We are the Rob McDonald fans.
Yeah, I know, it's pathetic. Middle-aged women. No, he doesn't want that. But read a lot of crime, which I've already seen when I've done a few book clubby sort of things online, and my readers are like, oh, they think I'm going to recommend, because I do like Marion Keys and all that sort of stuff, and this is what, being very flattering, my book's been compared to, but I do actually read quite a bit of crime. But one of my most recent is Ella Baxter's, like New Animal. Love that book. That's a debut.
So that's about grief as well, isn't it?
It is.
Because your book is about grief, fundamentally, and how it can change you and what it can do, and and it's a process.
Yeah.
Grieving is a process.
But I also think mine is also about a love affair.
Yeah.
I really see it as having a deep love affair at the core of it, which is the problem. When you are lucky enough to find the soulmate, what do you do when they've gone? Like, that's the thing that we're not really, I don't know whether you can be taught to deal with that, but it's, it's nice to achieve that soulmate dream, but then if you're not careful, you're stuffed.
And what do you love about this one?
I just think...
and it's quite small too.
Yes, I do like that in a book. It is that really fresh thing. I mean, she's a much younger writer than me, and it's got a rawness. The character is very unusual. She's... the one thing is, like Franny, you're looking at her a lot and going, don't do that. Don't do that. But also she's so quirky. And yeah, I don't know, it's just the thing about dealing with grief is it's so personal, and I think that we're getting into stories now where you are really starting to see there is no right way to do this stuff, but also it really mucks with your head.
Favourite Australian book, and I know this person's also probably your favourite Australian writer.
Yeah, I'd say Peter Temple's The Broken Shore. Do yourself a favour. It's such a good book.
What do you love about it?
Well, he was actually my lecturer at RMIT for a while.
Oh, really?
Really frightening.
And had you read his books?
No.
Then?
So he wrote the Jack Irish books as well.
Yeah.
This is not... Jack Irish books are great, but this is something very different. His writing style is so sparse. His one after that, unfortunately, he died in the last few years, because I was thinking soon it's just going to be like 3 words on a page. Like, he just... when he was editing our work at school, it'd be red pen through. It was pretty heartbreaking, but it's a great read. It's atmospheric. The language is amazing. It's true crime brilliance. Why would you call it a crime novel? It's like it's got all different sort of social issues. It's just a beautiful, amazing book.
So how does a person who loves crime so much then not write crime?
Well, I think that non-crime readers really diss crime, whereas I actually think it's the most complicated thing to write, and I'm not smart enough. I might get to write a crime novel eventually, but plotting, yeah. And also, this is just what came out of me, you know. I'm not a dark person myself, so I don't,
But have you met, like for me, crime writers, I have never met such a sunny bunch of people. And they're all really good looking. This is what I don't get.
That's the other reason I wasn't good looking enough to write crime.
But you were saying Peter Temple was he a sunny, did he have a sunny
He was not
disposition?
sunny, no.
Right.
No.
Jacquie Byron, and now you're working on your second novel, yes? How's that going?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, I could be more prolific.
Yes.
But no, I'm when I knuckle down to it, I'm really enjoying it. I'm in about 35,000 words now.
Now, for the writers among us, one sentence of advice.
One sentence of advice.
Start now, maybe.
Start now.
Start now or don't start.
No, do you know? But also, don't panic. Like do it when you're ready. And practice.
And you're never going to be ready.
No, this is not good advice. But don't feel that everything's got to be published, I think, like wait till it really is your best work. But then, other people will give different advice. I just think, come out of the stalls. It's so competitive now. There are so many books out there. And once you're in the machine, you start to really see that. That, do not start going to agents and publishers until you think you've got something really good.
And into some competition.
Oh, definitely. Rock up to stuff. That's that old-fashioned, turning up. But yeah.
Yeah. Sleep around.
Too late for that for me.
No. Christmas gift ideas. So,
Ho, ho, ho.
ho, ho, ho. If you love dogs,
Yep.
if you're a foodie,
Yes.
if you love music, that's the one thing we didn't talk about there. Like, there is a lot of music in here. If you like a good time on your own,
There's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of cocktails.
if you like, there's actually recipes in there.
There's a recipe for a meal or a dish and a cocktail in the back. Are
you all these
And there's
things?
lots of art in there too,
Yeah.
strangely, which people brought up with me later. And I'm like, oh yeah.
She's a sophisticated woman. She
She's a
lives in
Renaissance woman, you know.
Yeah, she lives in the burbs.
Yeah.
But she's sophisticated. That's what, and to me, I think that's the suburb you live in, really, isn't it?
Well, look how sophisticated I am, and I'm in the...
There's art, music, there's love affair, there's neighbours, there's humour, it's got everything, this book.
Yeah. Oh.
A bit like you.
Stella.
You've got
Got
everything.
everything.
What did you think? Have you read Happy Hour by Jacquie Byron? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time on 30 Books. Thanks for your time, Jack.
Thank you, Stella.